Meeting is now live. I love it when I see that little sign up there that says meeting has gone live. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to Super Series Tuesday. And believe it or not, we are already on Series 4, and today is episode 3. I want to maintain my excitement about our birthday this month, or our birth month, but I'm here to tell you that I'm a little sad because this is our last our last series of the year, and we're already on episode 3, which means we have one episode left. It's like I feel like I'm going to miss my friends.
Well, you can't get rid of me. I ain't going nowhere.
Well, look, and Latonya said she's not either. So
Well, I'm not. I'll be back with you on Wisdom Wednesday.
so that means we have some stuff brewing. It's coming soon.
That's right.
Well, at either rate, guys, today we have a very interesting topic here on Super Series Tuesday and episode 3. Our topic is home ownership shapes the community. Invest in the community that you serve. This whole series has been about making that change. Again, we started off with the man in the mirror. We progressed on to a family that saves together, achieves forever, and now we're taking this on to the community, which is a very important place. So when searching through the names and digging through all of the cabinets and everything, there was one name that stayed on the top, and we knew who we needed for this episode. Stephanie.
Well, you guys may not know her, but we know her very well. She's near and dear to us here in Houston. But I would like to introduce our special guest, and that would be Miss, and I'm going to say like she said it today, Miss Anjanette, and we call her Angie Thibodeaux. She is a native of Louisiana and considers it a distinct honor to be a product of a hardworking blue-collar family. Growing up in the rural South of Mer Rouge, Anjanette knows and understands the meaning of it takes a village. And we've had shows about it takes a village. So she learned at a very early age that having a sense of pride, understanding your community, and reaching out to help your fellow neighbor was more than just the right thing to do, but also the only way the community survived. From 2011 to present, Anjanette Thibodeaux has served a vital role in the neighborhood revitalization and community development. She has championed the attack on foreclosure in over 40 metropolitan areas, while at the same time bringing forth awareness and change of how our local government officials and the community leaders guide their respective constituents. Anjanette played a key role in bringing access to local communities for mortgage assistance, thereby resulting in foreclosure prevention. She worked with NACA and its operations to manage to reduce foreclosures in nearly 50 major cities across the country. But it doesn't stop with housing. Anjanette also worked on several communities to reduce auto loan debt, served on a panel discussion to execute student loan forgiveness programs. She is a national champion of GOTV initiative, and she is currently working on senior housing assistance to prevent the lost homes through tax sales. Her most recent and proud venture is working on the launch of the organization called DEC of Women, with not only a domestic reach, but also international reach ranging as far as Dubai and Nigeria. Anjanette currently serves as the Acres Home Super Neighborhood Council President with a residence size of over 20,000 constituents, 100 churches, and 2 school districts. She was elected as AHSN Council President in 2018 and is proudly serving her constituents, bringing forth awareness, access, and change to the community. Angie is the proud mother of 2 sons, Major and Malcolm, who's deceased, and enjoys spending time with her family and friends. She is a member of Greenhouse International Church, where they often collaborate on strengthening the community with grassroots outreach and organizing. She's a member of several organizations, communities task force ranging from NAACP, Sigma Gamma Rho sorority, and the NC Women's Council, and the NRA, to name a few. She resides in Acres Home, and while Anjanette has received an array of accolades, her most rewarding accomplishment came through empowering and elevating others for growth and advancement.
Stephanie, I think
Welcome,
that
Angie.
Thank you.
Stephanie, I think that we can just get up and hand the virtual stage over to Angie and Miss LaTanya Donaldson. LaTanya.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
We have introduced Ms. Donaldson onto this stage several times, so she needs no introduction, but we are going to, for those of you that have missed her, we are so excited to have back again on our virtual platform, of course, along with Angie, and you're going to hear from both of these ladies here shortly. We have also Ms. LaTanya Donaldson representing Prime Lending, and today she's wearing the hat of sponsor. You know, sometimes we have to, during our pre-session, we have to chat to see if today she's wearing her sponsor hat or her co-host hat. Either way, we're just so excited to have you here, Ms. Donaldson.
Well, I certainly appreciate it. And Letitia and Stephanie, it is such a pleasure to be back as leading sponsor. Prime Lending is always so honored to engage with House in the Car, brought to you by NARAB, because we believe in the message to the community, and most importantly, you're out there on the front lines trying to create sustainable home ownership opportunities within the African American community. And, this was built around millennials. So again, I always applaud the efforts of House in the Car. It's a very, very important initiative that is helping one homeowner at a time. So yes, ladies, it is so great to be back with each of you.
Yes. Thank you so much. And of course, for those of you that don't know, my name is Letitia Grant. I am the National Chair of House in the Car.
And guys, if you tune in on Tuesdays, my name is Stephanie Milburn. I am the campaign manager for House in the Car, and welcome to our Super Series Tuesday show.
Yeah. Now, speaking of frontline, let's just go ahead and dive right into it. Frontline, right now, Angie is out there serving our community on the front line at the polls. So I want to definitely commend her in all of the things that she does to support our community. Angie, and I don't want to steal her thunder, I'm going to let her touch on that before we move into, but of course, this is still serving the community, but before we move into home ownership in the community that you serve, I want you to tell the audience the number of vans, Angie, that you have secured just to ensure that everyone has the ability to get to the poll and vote, whomever they're going to vote for. You've just given them the ability to get there.
Absolutely, Letitia, and thank you all for having me. It's actually a great honor to be on the show. I see you guys all the time. I'm cheering it on. We're always trying to push millennials to watch the episodes and to really truly pay attention to what's happening in their surroundings. But what we're doing right now, of course, a couple of weeks ago, the governor issued a proclamation for the state of Texas ordering that there will only be one mail drop location per county. Well, what that does to a county such as Harris County, that had already had 250,000 mail-out ballots already requested, is now you pretty much suppress their votes in a sense, not intentionally, I'm sure, but you truly suppress their votes or disabled their ability to drop off their mail ballots where they could normally go to their local station, their polling station. They can't now. So for every problem, we try to serve our community by bringing forth an awareness, access, and change. So once we became aware of this, we wanted to provide them with access. And the only thing we could do, we can't take their ballots for them, but we can provide them access to transportation to get them to NRG. And so that's what we decided to do. So we looked at our senior population across Harris County, and what we decided was about 40 vans or so, 15 passenger vans, social distancing, PPE provided, masks are required. So even with a 15 passenger van, you probably can only fit about 6 people in there safely and securely with during this pandemic. So we said about 40 vans is what we'll need to mobilize everyone, either to NRG or better yet, just get them to the polls. Nonpartisan, we don't care who you vote for, we just want you to have access to vote. And Letitia, I am proud to say since the last time we made this initiative known to the public about having 40 vans, we are now heading closer towards 60 vans.
Whoa, impressive. I'm so excited. And, I'm so thrilled to serve under your leadership. It's some big shoes to fill, and I'm just excited about that. And speaking of your leadership, you are the president of the Super Neighborhoods located in the historic community of Acres Home.
Correct.
Can you
Correct.
tell us a little bit about your position and the community that you serve?
Absolutely. Well, we all know that Acres Homes is one of the largest African-American communities, is spread across about 10 square miles. I mean, you're talking about 10 square miles of nothing but neighborhoods and communities, and that's pretty large. And being that it serves as the largest African-American with over 70% of the individuals in the community being African-American. And then you have roughly about 20 to 22% Hispanic, and then the others fill it in the category of other. You take that, and speaking from someone who comes from a small town USA, you're talking about over 35,000 in population. That is a city in itself in some cases. Yeah. So when you talk about that, and this Acres Home Super Neighborhood is actually just one of 83 super neighborhoods. Now, all of the 83 are not active, and I am proud to say that I would be kind of bragging if I wouldn't say Acres Homes is probably one of the most active, but it's up there in the top 5. I can tell you that. And we try to stay active, and that's being engaged with our community. But let me tell you a little bit of the history of the super neighborhood. The super neighborhood was derived from Mayor Lee Brown, who, once he became mayor, realized that all of these neighboring communities were coming to the city and coming to his desk, his office, with all kinds of issues that plague the community: illegal dumping, blighted properties, eyesores, crack houses, all kind of different things that happens in your everyday community. But what he found out was that for every 5 that came up to actually have a voice, there were 12 behind them that didn't get to them with the same similar problems. Mm-hmm. Now, of course, each community has its own different dynamics, but he needed a landing pad. He only wanted to hear from one voice in that particular community. So he created these super neighborhoods, and these super neighborhoods roll into the city. Now to current date, they roll into the Department of Neighborhoods. So they roll into the Department of Neighborhoods, which is under the leadership of Takasha Francis. And we take any issues that plague our community to either Department of Neighborhoods, and in some cases, being that Acres Home Services, it resides the mayor, some cases we'll take those issues directly to the mayor if it requires immediate and urgent attention. So once you create those super neighborhoods, that becomes the landing pad for blighted properties. That becomes the landing pad for your foreclosures that are happening or tax sales that are happening in your community. That becomes the landing pad for your businesses going under and needing help. That becomes the landing pad as a community partnership that works with your chamber. That becomes the landing pad for all of your churches to galvanize and say, hey, we have things going on, let's partner together. So once we created that landing pad, now you have to strengthen it with good leadership. And so it has had several presidents, and I'm proud to say that I am one of them. And I pray that the 7 before me will look at the work that we're doing and say, job well done.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Anjanette, what is the home ownership rate in the community?
And actually, that's a great question because homeownership and housing, everybody calls me the housing lady because that's near and dear to me. We're talking about an average of about anywhere from 127, 128, all the way to 150 as an average housing price. What we're looking at as far as affordable. Let's talk about affordable housing. And then we have about 23%. Now, this is the part where I believe you guys will find this most interesting. 23% of our Acres Homes community are homeowners. That is a drastic drop from 20 years ago when home ownership was the prime piece. It was actually the bread and butter and the backbone of Acres Homes. Acres Homes was what was once one of the areas that the settlers of African American settlers would come into, and they could actually buy an acre lot and build their house, cultivate their land. They grew their own crops. They did their own mind. They literally created everything. And they became a community of trading in itself. And that's the community I'm from, where one person may have all the produce and another person would have all the meat, and they would trade. And that's how we sold our goods. We had one bus route. And right, and there was one bus route in Acres Homes, and that was the faux, bus route 44, and so that's how, there you go, Letitia. And that's how they got their name. So when home ownership from our ancestors, our great-grandparents and our grandparents, that was the only way we knew to survive. And to see that now go from 57% of home ownership to now 22, that's a big difference. And it's
a lot of opportunity there.
It tells
a lot of opportunity.
Millennials, yeah.
Yeah. So, and and it's funny because you see me throwing up my my hands because I am a proud resident of Acres Homes. And anywhere, anytime I have the opportunity to talk about my community, my neighborhood, I make sure that I bring and shed light to that neighborhood. So that's why you guys saw me doing that, not throwing up gang signs or anything. And now everyone gets to know the history of where that comes from. The bus route. I mean, it's just that simple.
The rich history and so much to be proud of.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Angela, in this community, what do you view to be the challenges as it relates to home ownership, and how does increased home ownership impact the community, which you kind of started to touch on?
Right. I could easily say, and this is the scapegoat I think others use, and I don't want to use it. I could easily say gentrification is a problem, but that's not the main issue. So I'm not even gonna harp on that, although that's always the growing concern. It's not gonna stop. Gentrification is gonna be around. It's been around. It's just now magnified. So I could easily say that that's one of the issues that plague the community. But the biggest is that millennials are not encouraged or taught or educated on the true meaning of ownership. They don't understand what Big Mama and Medea did to keep that house going so that the next generation would have something. And where I come from, it's always, we never sell Big Mama's house because the kids always, though move far and wide, they always have to have somewhere to call home. Even if Big Mama is gone, even if nobody is there, that home, when California, Chicago, LA, New York, when they come home, there's always one place that they can go. And that's kind of the enriched history that we're losing, because now you got to think about it. Look at the footage of what our millennials have seen. And I'm going to take you back where every last person on this call, on this podcast, can know about. Remember back in 2007, 8, 9, all the way through 2011 and even 2012, the foreclosure crisis took us by storm. Nobody saw that coming. But remember, as we were going through that foreclosure crisis, we were raising our millennials at that time. And all they saw was struggle after struggle after struggle. Robbing Peter to pay Paul, trying to make $1 out of 15 cents, trying to do this and do that, get 2 jobs, sometimes 3 and a part-time. when it's only what 24 hours. It's only 24 hours in a day. It's 12-hour shifts, but you got mom and dad literally working 3 and 4 shifts to make it happen. That's a struggle our millennials witness, and we have to be mindful. They saw this. So now all of a sudden we want to tell them to go get a house so you too can have this. So we got to look at glorifying home ownership in a whole different light. And I'm learning that through my son. In order for me to reach him, I now have to talk his language. I now have to get down and dirty and say, okay, let me talk Fortnite. Let me talk Minecraft. Let me talk, all these game Roblox and TikTok. Let me get on TikTok and do something that he can understand and bring it to him. We just did studying all his spelling words just the other night, and I TikToked him and he got it. What the hell? I grew up on Schoolhouse Rock. I learned my whole preamble to the Constitution on Schoolhouse Rock. But our millennials, in order for them to even understand the true concept behind ownership and that the wealth is in the land and passing on that college education through your housing, through making sure that you have generational wealth that will pass on, they're missing that because all they saw was the struggle.
Right.
So we have to we have to literally re-educate them and train their minds a different way. I'm working with the principal at Booker T right now so that I can go into the civics classes, so I can go into their business classes and understand finance and understand. When I was in school, that's how I learned. My mom didn't teach me how to balance a checkbook, but school did. Taking those business classes did. So there was a lot of things I learned in school. They gave me those concepts to pass on and move forward. However, when do we start paying that back? So I figured the best way to pay it back, we get into those schools, we start educating our millennials and understanding we need to make home ownership cool. We need to make it understood, come to my pad, I own this. Make ownership a thing to do. Let ownership be your Michael Kors. Let ownership be your Coco Chanel. Let ownership, be your Air Jordans. You can buy, I talked to somebody just the other day who said, I'm thinking about owning a home. And so we started looking at his budget, and I looked at his budget and I was like, you already own one. 6 pair of tennis shoes, averaging $2,500 a month. Sweetie, that's your house right there. That's your house. I don't get it.
That's it right there.
Yes.
And
so true.
I'm so glad that you said that you're TikTok, and not specifically the TikTok with your son, but what you've just proven is the one thing that we've been preaching, Stephanie and I, on our house in the car. Millennials have said, we don't want to be talked to or told what to do. We want people to listen. So what you said was, we need to address everyone, or especially the millennials. We need to address the millennials on their level. And just like you said about
meet them where they
tennis
are.
Shoes, exactly, meet them where they are.
Yeah.
You bought the tennis shoes, so now he's thinking.
Right. And you know what? I was talking to, believe it or not, an R&B artist, and we're working on some things in Chicago and New York on a collaborative effort for housing. And we're preaching home ownership in Chicago, and Newark, New Jersey, and New York is some of our bigger markets right now for mixed use housing and multi-family housing. And so we were talking about how to get people to understand, on a multi-unit, they can buy that whole multi-unit and live rent-free, live mortgage-free. They live in the first one, they rent out the other 3 and let it pay for itself. So when they understood that concept, they started gravitating to it. But one of them told me one thing, and it actually stuck with me. He said, when he got to a pinnacle level to where he could pass the wealth, he made the fatal mistake of passing the wealth. What he didn't pass was the knowledge with it. He passed the wealth. And what Stephanie just said, I'm gonna show you how this is just paramount and it's confirmation, Stephanie. What he said was that he was so busy trying to pay it forward and bring everybody with him. You cannot bring everybody with you. You have to meet people where they are. You take them out of their elements and their comfort zones. They don't know how to survive. When it came time to pay the taxes, the house went down because they didn't pay the taxes. When it came time to upkeep keep and maintain the home, the house went down. They didn't know about curb appeal. They didn't understand it requires upkeep. You have to change the air filters. You have to do all of this to keep your house running productively. So what he realized was that now I got to go back and reassess and reevaluate, put them back where they were, because guess what? Right there is their comfort level. And as they gradually get educated more and more, you move them up gradually and slowly. Don't make them come to you, you go to them. So we're gonna have to go to them.
Education,
Yeah.
knowledge is
Absolutely.
power.
We're gonna have to go to them. And we got to find out what's important to them and why. Because right now, I'm going to tell you this, I talked to 16 people last week. Well, actually, it was right before early voting. 16 millennials. I purposely did that. I was trying to get 20, but I only got 16 to actually participate. Half of them were African American. The others was either Asian or Hispanic. I am sad to say that our African Americans did not find homeownership as a necessity and did not find it important. They were okay renting. They were okay where they were. All they wanted to do was make their money and just live and be left alone. In other words, Anjanette, I've been through enough. I've seen enough. I'm just out here trying to survive. It's hard. The struggle for me is going to work and coming home, back home safe. That's their challenge. That's the emotional mindset of them today. My Asian and Hispanic community, all they talked about was how they'll get student loans. They don't need them. They got them, but they're investing. One of them has over 2,000 shares of Facebook, 1,000 shares of Amazon, 10 or 20 shares of this, that, and the other. They talk about investing, and they're using their student loan money to do it. So when I hear, that's a big gap for me. That's a bitter pill to take for me. And that shows what goes on in our households. The struggle is real. What they're going through is real, but it doesn't have to be that way. So somewhere between what's going on in the home and what they're being taught in the home and what's happening out here in reality for them, we got to have a meeting of the minds.
Yeah.
Because I'm not teaching my son to squeeze the low-hanging fruit. He said his teacher told him, you got to squeeze the low-hanging fruit from the orange tree and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, no. I want to talk to his teacher. I don't ever want him to squeeze from the low-hanging fruit. I want him to understand what it means to own the tree and the grove.
Yes.
So teach him how to own the grove. And now we can talk. I'll work with you. Don't ever teach him how to squeeze a fruit. No. You can pay somebody to do that. That's right.
That's right.
I love it. I love it.
So and here's our next question. Our next question is, we've discussed on this platform the direct relationship between home ownership and the success of school-age youth. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Can you speak to us in reference to the connection between the two in your specific community?
Yeah. Again, what we want to do and before the pandemic, I will tell you what we were doing. We were having homeownership workshops. We were having financial literacy workshops before the pandemic. And what it taught me was that we have a long way to go. We literally had to change our curriculum. And I'm going to tell you why. We took for granted what we thought they already knew. We took that for granted, and I had to go back to all the Toastmaster classes and things like that, where they tell you when you speak on a 5th grade level, education level. And there's a reason why, because we took for granted that they already knew these steps and things of that nature. When we go back now, Letitia, we have to really go back as if it's a blank canvas. LaTanya, we have to really teach them as if they know absolutely nothing, not to insult them, but to start cradle to grave and get the education out, because I cannot stress to you enough, when we tell them they were being educated, they were literally disengaged. But when we made it fun, saying this is going to happen, we had contests, we play Monopoly, and that's the best thing you can do with them. When you play Monopoly and see how many wants to own the hotels and the houses and things like that, and others just want, one little boy, he was so funny. I just want to count my duckies. And that's what was important to him. I'm here to tell you, by the time we finished and he realized that he owed his duckies to the people who have the ownership of those hotels,
Yeah.
his mindset was different. So
And
now
Jeanette, I started playing Monopoly with my kids at an early age. You are so correct.
there you
That is a phenomenal game to start driving wealth,
go. Mhm.
creation of wealth, and home ownership and owning property.
Right. And
Absolutely.
I really think we should probably, and this is something, I mean, when we do it, I'm the first one to champion it. When we did it this one time. It was such a big hit, and then pandemic. But when we did it, we had gift cards. And you know what? I hate to say this, but it is so true. You would be surprised what a $5 gift card, it goes such a long way. An $8
Yeah.
gift card at Chick-fil-A means everything. It means
Everything.
everything to these kids. And I shouldn't say kids, to these young adults. It means everything, but they were literally, we were playing for gift cards and things like that. And though it was the bad way to do it, it's just like Sunday school is bad. We got to feed them to come to Sunday school. But once they
It,
get there, we teach. They don't even
Right.
realize they're being educated. They didn't
that's
even
right.
realize they were being educated on the importance. So why not take an initiative such as that? We got enough people, Letitia. We know that we can do this. We got corporate sponsors that will sponsor. It takes little of no money almost. We got corporate sponsors that would take this on and say, hey, we want to put this money back into our young adults, back into them. We want to pay this forward because guess what? Things such as insurance, we hired someone a couple of days ago and we was talking about insurance and he said, I don't need it. Is your wife going
Mm.
to, she's carrying the insurance? He was like, no, I'm not married. Okay, well, how are you going to do your medical, dental, health, life, supplemental life, even 401k? He said, just erase all that. I don't need that. The
Mm.
fact that, and he was 26 years old, the fact that that was a non-issue, he said it, it rolled off his tongue so smooth. The fact that that was a non-issue for him speaks volumes to me.
It
And
does.
guess what? He's not the only one. So when we go back and we really teach and re-educate our millennials, we're giving it, and I shouldn't say re-educate, educate, because I got a feeling these are things that are never discussed in the home. Now, I
Right.
grew up in a home where when you was a child, you stayed in a child's place. So when my parents was going through things, we didn't know. I
We
told my
didn't
brother,
know.
if we were poor, we didn't know it. We didn't
Right.
know. So
Right.
but as you get older, you start catching more and more of that information and you realize that struggle is real. And so we got
Yeah.
people, when you see a 30, 35, 40-year-old adult still living with their parents, that struggle is real. They're afraid of life. They're
They're afraid
afraid
of
of
life.
real, actual
Yeah.
life because they've seen some things that just, this don't look glorified to me. Let me stay here. So we have to
Yeah.
start turning the table. And when I tell you we got corporate sponsors that are do it, I can call out 2 banks right now that would actually reinvest in our millennials because guess what? They'll make money from it. Somebody got to give them
That's
a
right.
loan. So we have to
Right.
start there. I hope that answered your question.
My mom tells me that same thing all the time. She's like, girl, we were poor. You didn't know that?
We didn't
Well,
know.
the adults are talking in the living room, you stay in your bedroom. So that was a
Yeah.
struggle that we knew nothing about, but for the millennial group, I guess, when you think about it, them being raised during a time where you're having to move because your parents lost the home, I could see how it would plant fear in their minds. But again, as you stated, when you're spending this large number of a large dollar amount on tissues and the amount of money that you're spending on rent, you are buying a house. It's just not yours.
This is true. And when they
So,
go through true home ownership and true budget counseling will show you that your rent calculated over 360 months, here's what you could have owned. Principal, interest,
yes,
tax, and rent insurance all included. This is what you could have owned.
right. Now, Angie, as the leader of a community with an aging population, because as we know, many of these communities, people have gotten better jobs, better educated, and the first thing that they do is they get in their car and drive as far away from the neighborhood as they possibly can. But as a leader of a community with an aging population, what would be your plea to our millennial audience?
Oh my goodness. Oh, I can go a lot of different ways with this, but my number one plea would be, I tell everybody to conduct their due diligence before they run away. Because when you're running away, I get it. I get it. You're running away from every issue, every hurt, every problem, every eyesore that caused you to feel the way you're feeling. And all of a sudden, New York, Chicago, Atlanta, Florida, Miami, all of those places look so much better. But I can tell you, with Houston having hundreds of thousands of people moving into the city every single day, you talk about that. Houston and Texas as a whole is not all that bad. And my plea to them is conduct your due diligence first before you leave, because would you leave $50,000 behind you while you're driving away? And I always tell people, would you leave $100,000 behind you, or would you go back and get that $100,000 and make it? And if there's a way you can turn that 100,000 into 200,000, would you stay for it? And they will tell you, yes, they would. Well, guess what? When you're walking away from Big Mama's house, when you're walking away from your mom's house, when you're walking away from your historical lodgings, your ancestral lodgings, that's what you're leaving behind. And guess what? As soon as you walk away and leave it, guess who's waiting to scoop it up for pennies on a dollar? They do it every day. Breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. My plea would be, conduct your due diligence before you leave. Understand and know what you're walking away from. Because once Big Mama's house is gone, once Mom and Dad's house is gone, and you got the family saying, I don't want to deal with it, just let it go. Once it's gone, it's gone. And don't be mad when somebody literally turn that $10,000 or $20,000 property into $150,000, $250,000, and in some cases $300,000 investment, and will pay for their children's college someday. Don't get mad about that. Conduct your due diligence properly. That's my
Yeah. And Stephanie and I know that to be true on so many levels in so many places. We represent quite a few builders in the Sunnyside community. And just over the past 4 years, we've watched that neighborhood transition from $85 a square foot to now $135 a square foot, just within the last 4 years.
And that breaks my heart, because it's almost one of those situations where you go coulda, shoulda, woulda, but you know now there's a reason why. If somebody wants this that bad, there's got to be some good there. You just can't see it. It's like walking into a property and all you see is bad paint job and things hanging from the rafters and the floor coming up, and you just walk into it and all you see is this dirty old house. But somebody else can walk in and all they see is a masterpiece. It's a mansion.
What I am happy to see in those neighborhoods, Letitia, is that more multifamily units are coming available, because Houston does not have, a large multifamily inventory. And I know that Angie mentioned, Chicago, Newark, and New Jersey, that they do have those multifamily units available. But it is good to see that in Houston now that these units are coming available, so that we are able to introduce that to our millennials and say, hey, you know what, you can become a homeowner and investor at the same time, and it becomes more appealing to them.
Yes. So let me just tell you guys what happened specifically today. So I received a contract on a multi-unit listing that we had, new construction in the Sunnyside or South Union neighborhood. And the buyer's agent failed to tell me that the buyer was utilizing City of Houston down payment assistance and sent me a form. Well, as a listing agent, I was taken aback a little bit, but as a servant of my community, I was pleased.
Yeah.
And I was pleased to see that the individual is utilizing all of their resources to not only become a homeowner for the first time, but to be a homeowner and an investor.
Yeah.
Go ahead, LaTanya, because I know you have
creation. Absolutely. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Not only a homeowner, but an investor. And, and Jeanette, you talked a lot about education, and it goes back to what we always say, Stephanie and Letitia, it takes a village, to raise a child. And I think that that's what's needed. We have to get out there because, to your point, they're not getting this in the household. They're not getting it at home. So that's our charge. That's your charge, Letitia. That's your charge, Stephanie. Angie, that's your charge. That's my charge, is to pull our resources together and get out in our communities and be that agent of change. We talk about, it's easy to talk about it, right? But to get out and do it, so people like you, Angie, who are out there in the trenches, I want you to know I admire you, my sister. I really do. And whatever we can do, prime lending, you talk about those corporate sponsors, that's what we want to engage in.
Absolutely. And like I was telling Letitia, I am all in. I mean, if you can think of anything that we can do outside of that, I took it upon myself to just go and talk to, a couple of principals and assistant principals at the schools to just see if this is something that we can do, not to tell them that it's important. Believe me, they already knew it was important. They just don't have the resources to do it. But when you give it to them buffet style and say, here's financial literacy, here's understanding the importance of credit, because I will tell you this, and I'm gonna try my best not to get on my soapbox about this. It breaks my heart to go to Grambling State University, my alma mater. It breaks my heart to go to those HBCUs and see those credit card applications in every part of the campus. But then when you go to Yale, and I've had a chance to visit Stafford, you go to those schools, they're hard to find. You got to literally go online to apply for a credit card. They're nowhere in the bookstore. They're not in the student union. They're not in the SGA buildings. Any of the common areas, you don't see them. But in our HBCUs, all you see is First Credit and Capital this and Union this, household, and all you see is all these credit cards and credit card applications. And so I'm like, you know what? Let us start in high school, and in some cases junior high, to explain the importance of credit. Right. To explain what ownership means, to explain what it means to even open up a bank account. I went to one school, and I don't want to call their name because we're actually working on a few things, because this school is really destitute. It is just, I can't believe we live in a school district, and I'll get on, Aldine for having the highest tax rates in the country, but the schools is a whole different ball game. But I went into the school, and you would be surprised that some kids didn't even know what a checking account was. Wow. Never heard of it. And I was like, well, maybe your mom has it to pay her bills or something like that. He was like, no, she just used her card, and her paycheck goes to her card, and this, that, and the other. And the more he was talking, the more I realized he's lost. He's just lost, and he's one of many. So we got to go all the way back to the basics and teach and educate, but somehow we got to make it cool. So if that means we got to get some artists and some cool people from the Texans and Astros and all this to make it cool to be financially savvy, it's okay. I'm okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. Now, it's no secret that our millennials are all about making a change, which is just what this series is about. It's about make that change. They're leaders of small groups, and they are organizers of several Buy Black campaigns. What have you seen or done to be effective, and how did the individual groups start the program?
Well, like I said, right before the pandemic, we were working very closely with them. Now, because of the pandemic, and we were gaining momentum, we would have financial literacy classes, and it wasn't that we would trick them to get there. We would just say that, you're coming for, and this is something we probably can do later. You're coming for one reason, you're coming to see the Black Lives Matter mural. And while you're there, hey, did you know this? And did you know that? And we get them like that. Or you're coming for a fashion show, or you're coming for a little a talent show or whatever. Once they get there, prior to the talent show, here is what you experience. You're understanding the importance of this, that, and the other, and being an investor of your neighborhood. And you start with your local stores and things like that. So we had started working with some of the millennials, and one of the things that some of them had done was had a complaint board, and that actually right after the pandemic, it went away. but there was a complaint board they used to put out there on social media. It was kind of like Glassdoor, but they put it on Facebook, and they talk about, well, why is this store in our neighborhood and it's the worst looking store? It looks horrible. So we started going to those stores and say, hey, if we bring volunteers here that's doing community service anyway. A lot of our students want to get community involvement or community participation points just on their college, for their college credits, or for, you know, to put on their college applications and things like that. Anything dealing with community service. So to get these credits and these points, we'll come and we'll clean up, we'll beautify this store, this strip mall. We will beautify it and make it look beautiful. And guess what? Now we can take pride, because guess what? Nobody wants to live in boarded up properties and eyesores. Nobody wants to be, hey, I live over here in this neighborhood, you know, where the burnt down store is. Nobody desires to live there. So when we put some equity and some skin in the game and start trying to help the businesses help themselves, it makes them look better. It makes them feel better. And you walk in with pride. I can walk into a store in Acres Homes right now and people will throw stuff on the floor because they don't have pride in it. But we walk in there and you beautify it and clean it up. And now, oh, wait a minute, no, you picked that up. You could go walk over there 5 more steps to the trash can. Simple little things like that. So we had started that, and I'll be so glad when we're able to pick that back up, because honestly, Olano's was one of the stores that actually said they'd be interested in it. It's a store that everybody in Acres Homes know and love. I go there for sausages all the time. I cannot even speak.
In Boudin.
I'm so guilty of that. But we all can agree that that store could look and appear a little bit better. And so when I talked to the owner is Asian. I talked to the owner and he said, hey, you know, I'm up for it. Just tell me what I need to do. I make it look better. You help me make it look better. I can keep it up. So he's willing to do it. He needs to know that we're behind him in doing it.
Yeah. So standing behind and supporting some of our stores and things in our communities. I love that. And the complaint board, that's a good one. That's another good one.
Yeah, it was a complaint board. It went away. I don't know what happened to it.
Yeah. Okay. Latonya,
Cool.
looks like you found something in your mind.
No, I mean, this has just been phenomenal. I mean, there was one part I'm like, oh, let me testify, because, you know, one of the things that really stands out for me that you just talked about is explaining the why. You know, it's one thing to talk about why you need to purchase a home, why you need to create wealth, but or you know, talk about those things, but we don't explain the why. We can talk about it, but we need to explain the why. You know, because you are building wealth, you know, within your family to pass on generational wealth, and really break that down, because, you know, you also talked about assuming. You know, and just to be transparent, I've been guilty, because we make the assumption that there is somebody at home that could be saying something and we're just echoing what they're saying. But the truth of the matter is, there isn't, you know, and it does start from square one. You talked about financial literacy going into the middle schools. I actually think it should start on the grade level in the elementary schools.
I agree. I agree. And another thing, and I'm going to step on some toes here, Letitia. I don't know when you're going to air this, but let me know. Give me a heads up.
We live.
Oh Lord. Okay, well then I'll go ahead on and Stephanie, I forgot you did say that we're going. Lord have mercy. Oh my God. Okay, let me try to act like I'm okay. So, well, anyway, I'll hear about it probably tonight, but I feel like I would be remiss not to say this, especially being a product of a small town, especially being a product of a village. But let's not overlook the churches. When we're in trouble, when we're in need, we go to the altar, we go to our pastor, we go to our deacon, we go to the associate pastor, we go to Mother Helen, we go to Sister Rose, we go to everybody. But that foreground, the forefront is the church. But before the pandemic, I can tell you it's very few pastors I've seen get up in the pulpit and talk about ownership and talk about generational wealth and talk about financial literacy and talk about understanding the importance of credit and things like that. Why? Because it's not in the Bible, but guess what? That's what's coming to your pulpit. That's what's coming to your altar. That's what's coming to you to ask the pastor for prayer. Pastor, keep us lifted in prayer. We about to lose our car. Pastor, keep us lifted in prayer. Pray for us as a family. We going in foreclosure. Pastor, Big Mama's house, we didn't even know that taxes was on it. We gonna have to come together as a family, and it's 6 of us, but only 2 of us coming together to do it. Pastor, pray for us. So while pastor's praying, it's 100 churches in Acres Homes, and you mean to tell me not one can say, okay, somebody got to be the leader and say, I'll pull it through. I'm going to dig this out of the mud and I'm going to pull this community together. And me, pastor, going to pull all these other pastors together and say, we care. We going to sponsor one of these adventures. We're going to be able to go into the schools. We're going to be able to partner with NARAB. We're going to be able to partner with House in the Car. We're going to do this on behalf of the community. We may not be the subject matter expert, but guess what? There's some young ladies I know that are. Where is that?
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't see it. And the sooner we see things like that, the farther we'll go, because you and I both know, all of us are Christians. You and I both all know that when you're facing hardship, the first place we go to is we go to the rock. That church is our rock. That's our rock.
That's right.
You know what?
Can I get an
just brought up one thing.
Amen, sister.
She brought up one thing that's very similar to something that Latonya and I were talking about before airing, and that was buying back the block, Latonya.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Oh,
it's
buying
like,
back the block.
Let's discuss buying the block.
Absolutely.
I believe to buy back that, how do you and your organization view that concept of buying back the block?
I love it. It's the best thing since sliced bread. And here's why. You got the whole strip mall of stores and things like that. And you can go to, and all of us are ladies, we've had our nails done at one point or another, or we've had something done. But isn't it sad when we go to the nail shop and then there's all these other stores in the strip mall that just look horrible? Or, you go to the donut shop or whatever. What I have learned in my research is that sometimes the same person that owns the nail shop is the same person that owns the dry cleaners. It's the same person that owns the donut shop. So guess what? If they're only concerned with their small gamut, they're not concerned with the whole strip. They're not concerned with the housing that their impact around it. The one thing I did learn from, Sam Walton put out a management training about 10 years ago, and I was blessed enough to attend one of his management training sessions. And what I did learn about his management style is that before they put or place a Walmart in any area, they do a market analysis and a study on that neighborhood. They want to know who they are. What was that? What's the notorious biggie? Didn't he say, tell me what your interests are, who you be with, So they wanted to know what people's interests are. They wanted to know who do they spend their dollars with. And I was like, that's that song. But it held true. They wanted to understand spending habits and things like that. And so when I understood that, it made me realize they're not just placing Walmarts where they see a neighborhood, a new neighborhood or a new construction. No. They're placing Walmarts where they see the dollars, where they see the spending. And I was like, Acres Homes is big enough. I mean, you're talking about 10 square miles, 37,000 people, and there's no Walmart, but they're looking at the dollars being spent. Where are we spending our dollars and things like that? So when we're talking about buy back the block, the best people to buy back the block is us. Because we know what kind of businesses will thrive in our hood. We know what kind of businesses are needed. We know what our interests are. We know how much to sell things for. And guess what else? We are the best people to build our own properties because we know what we like. We know exactly. If we like the house, the one-story house with the wraparound porch, guess what? That's what we want. That's our stuff. That's what we like.
And Angie, we don't want a dog park.
That's right. We don't want a dog park. We do not want a dog park.
We don't need it.
That's not appealing to us. You know,
Yeah.
you got to understand us. It's just like when you're dating. Don't just talk to me, get to know me, right, ladies? You have to get to know me. Don't give me Coco Chanel and I ain't even that type of girl. You know, that might not impress me. You know, but you know what?
Yeah.
Give me some Facebook stock as a gift, and you got me right there. We can talk. We can
Absolutely.
talk. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You want to get
Yeah.
to me? Talk to me about some stock options. Give me a tip.
That's right.
You know,
Now we talking. Now
I'll
we
tell
talking.
you, my son, you know, he's now in college, and I remember, you know, obviously with all the young kids, they get into the tennis shoes. You know, he was, you know, oh, this pair of Nike. You know, they know release dates on tennis shoes.
Yes.
More than I know how to do my job sometimes. I mean, they are all about the release dates. But I remember one particular time, you know, my sister, his godmother, challenged him. She said, okay, if you want to go buy a pair of Nikes, I need to know if you own some of that. So I challenged him. I said, we will not go buy another pair of Nikes until you own a piece of Nike. To this day, he still has his Nike stock. So
There you go.
those are the kind of conversations. That's where we need to challenge our young. You know, we have to change our narrative, right? Before we will see any kind of impact in our communities. Again, going back to education, our charge.
And not just our young. I mean, we have to tell our friends, our cousins, our aunts and uncles, even now, because they're still not on that same page either. Because I know some of my friends, I'm like, hey, if you're going to buy that Louis, you're going to buy those Christian Louboutins, own some stock in that, because now you're just spending money and you're not owning anything. Like you don't have a house that you own. So I'm trying to instill that into some of my friends, even not just the youth, but even now, because the friends that are my age, they have children that need to be taught the same thing.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think
and then they have on their red bottoms getting into an Uber.
Oh, Latanya.
Oh, say it.
I'm sorry.
Is that right? You're not right.
Latanya had shut down
the apartment. Look, from the apartment at that.
She done dropped the mic now. She dropped the mic.
Okay. Speaking of that, Stephanie, take us to our Facebook audience.
Yeah, I've been checking. We don't have any questions from the Facebook audience right now. Tom Nichols did just send a link to Robinhood, which if you know anything about Robinhood, it's an app where you can buy stocks and do trading on that. So thanks, Tom, for that.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Thank
awesome.
you.
And,
You know,
and that's another thing. When it comes to buying back the block, I definitely want to push that episode, because again, and I'll definitely end with this, Letitia, on that topic, because when you're buying back the block, you're not going to tear up or cause issues or run down something you've invested in. And you're going to take so much pride and ownership into it and honor about having ownership in it, that you're going to get upset when you see others disrespect it.
Right.
So it's about taking an interest in having skin in the game.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. That's the biggest thing. It's when you all brought up the tennis shoe thing and have had this conversation about tennis shoes, it's interesting because Damon, my youngest son, was home this weekend visiting, and he's decided that he wants to start a business, and his business is going to be coming home, purchasing shoes, taking them back to school and selling them for more. And I said, Damon, that makes no sense. Who's going to pay you more money for shoes? They can just go to the store and buy themselves. He says, well, the stores out there don't have any. So you have to get them from here. I said, but again, why wouldn't they just have them shipped to them? He said, because you can't always get them. After they've made so many, they stop making them. And he said, people will do anything for a pair of shoes. They may not have enough money, but they'll have enough money to buy shoes. This is my 18-year-old son that said this to me. And I said, so then I got concerned. When he said people, I was like, Lord Jesus, I said, baby, would you do it? He said, I ain't gonna do that, but I sell them to him.
Spoken like a businessman. Spoken like
So
a
I
real
look,
man.
so I'll leave the audience on that note. An 18-year-old has figured that people will do anything for a pair of tennis
Absolutely.
shoes.
Mhm. I believe it.
So this is the guys. I feel like I'm about to get off a great phone conversation with a group of my friends. This has been such a great conversation and much needed. You know, we again, we took it from the man in the mirror. We brought it to the man in the mirror with James Dixon, by the way, who actually is a resident of Acres Home. So we're just Acres Home. Look, all 4 episodes, by the way.
You
No, just kidding.
represent.
But so with James Dixon, the man in the mirror, and then we turned around with Freddie Mac and we talked about a family that saves together, achieves forever. And for me, that topic was it just spoke volumes. And then here we are today, speaking on investing in the community that you serve with the president of Acres Home Super Neighborhood and LaTanya Donaldson of Prime Lending. What we wanted to do on this platform is provide our millennials with the tools that's needed to make that change, and for them to see that, yes, it was a struggle during that time, but there was one component missing. And Angie said it several times, LaTanya said it several times. During that time when individuals lost their homes, there was one major component missing, and individuals they counted on you to miss that component, and that was education. Education was missing. There were so many people that purchased homes that did not get their taxes and insurance included in their monthly payment and did not have the ability to save that portion every month. So yes, they lost their homes. So don't mistaken and think that, home ownership is going to result into foreclosure. That is not a fact. The one thing that is going to prevent you from foreclosure is education, knowing that debt to income ratio and how to ensure that even in the dark times, your home doesn't have to be the first thing that you lose. And I know LaTanya can speak on that all day, every day, but I'm going to give her an opportunity to introduce or maybe speak a little bit about what she's cooking.
Absolutely. I'm over here in the stove. So we're really proud to announce that we have extended our sponsorship with House in the Car, because again, I mean, Angie, you spoke on so many different points. It's very important that we have an initiative that speaks to us, right? That's tailored to us, that we understand the mentality and we can speak to that. Because again, until we put something, we talk about becoming. See, I believe you must unbecome to become. Right. And that's where the educational piece. So in conjunction with House in the Car, we are introducing Wisdom Wednesdays. We're gonna bring it. So it will start in November and run I believe, Letitia, three Wednesdays, and it'll be 3 consecutive Wednesdays in November, and then we'll do it again in December and lead right on into Christmas. And hopefully your gift to yourself will be home ownership.
Amen.
How to do it.
Amen.
There you go.
I love it.
Yeah.
So Letitia, are you guys going to advertise Wisdom Wednesday like you did House in the Car on all the social media platforms?
You better know it.
Okay, don't forget. Don't forget, everybody. Tune in.
And then we're going to leverage the relationship with you to get the word out.
Absolutely. So I'm telling everybody right now to tune in to join the Facebook public group, Acres Homes Connect, so that they can capture, because everything you put out, we're going to make sure it's on the Acres Home Connect on Facebook.
Good deal.
Absolutely.
Stephanie?
We do not have any audience questions. Next week, we don't have our usual Tuesday shows because we have our national conversation with NAREB. So we won't be airing our Millennial Talk Tuesday show next Tuesday. However, join us the following Tuesday and we will be back.
Good deal. Well, House in the Car will be back next Tuesday. We will feature NatPac 1947, and we're going to talk about the politics of home ownership. wasn't just designed this way. It didn't just happen to be this way. It was designed this way. So we're going to dig into the politics of home ownership. We hope that you join us on next Tuesday. Stay tuned. Be sure that you like the Facebook, all social media platforms of House in the Car. And we look forward to seeing you again next week. Thank you, audience. Have a great week.
Thank you, ladies. Be safe out there.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.